My best friend tells me that my husband is cheating, just so she can have him for herself, but when my final revenge comes, it feels so good. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get it off my chest, and maybe get some perspective from strangers on the internet, because honestly, I no longer know who to trust. I'm 32, and until 3 months ago, I was a married woman, with a faithful husband, in very large quotation marks. This husband I'm talking about is Ben, 34. We've been married for 6 years, and if you count our time dating before that, we were together for a total of 8. We met when we were finishing university, so when we graduated, we moved in together and got engaged soon after. We bought a house in the suburbs and were actively trying to have kids, until my friend dropped a bomb on me. My best friend, Hannah, 31, has been in my life for 10 years. She was my maid of honor, the person I called when I was happy, sad, or just bored. She came to our house at least twice a week for dinner, to play board games, or just to hang out. Ben always said she was like the sister he never had, and I loved how well they got along. The problem was, the way they got along was very different from how siblings would. But I guess there's a reason they both loved Game of Thrones so much. About 4 months ago, I started noticing changes in Ben, the typical cheating signs, the kind where you just know something's off. We'd been trying for a year for me to get pregnant, and that was stressful enough. Between fertility appointments, scheduling, and the monthly disappointment when it didn't happen, he could have been stressed about that too. Hannah was a good friend, in front of me, but behind my back, and behind my husband's back, not so much. Several times, she showed up with wine and chocolate when I was upset over another negative test. She listened to me talk about how Ben seemed disconnected, and even suggested couples therapy, which I thought was a very mature suggestion from someone who'd never been married. The strangest thing was that Ben started going out more on weekends with his work friends. He had never been particularly social, so this was new. When I asked to go with him or suggested making it a double date, he always had some excuse, that it was a work conversation or guy time. On those nights, Hannah would often come over to keep me company, bringing takeout and suggesting we watch movies or try new face masks. I was honestly grateful to have her there with me during what felt like a rough patch in my marriage, at least on those nights, they weren't together. Until the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday in February, and Ben had texted me saying he'd be home late because of a work dinner. Hannah showed up at my door around 7 p.m., looking very serious, which was unusual for her. Normally, she's cheerful and energetic, but that night she seemed nervous. She asked me to sit down and talk. She started by saying how much our friendship meant to her, and that she'd been debating for weeks whether to tell me something. Then she told me she had seen Ben with another woman, not once, but several times over the past few months. She said she wasn't sure if she should tell me because she didn't want to be the messenger, but she couldn't keep seeing me without me knowing the truth. I asked for details, where, when, what exactly she had seen. She told me she'd seen them in restaurants in the city, holding hands, kissing. She said it looked serious, not just a fling. When I asked who the woman was, Hannah said she didn't know, but that it didn't matter, because cheating was cheating, no matter who it was with. I asked if she at least had a photo of them as proof, maybe I knew her, or at least it could help in the divorce, which I later found out doesn't matter in my state, but she didn't. She said she hadn't thought of that. The next day, because Ben had gotten home very late, I confronted him. At first, he denied it, but when I gave him the details Hannah had told me, he broke down and admitted everything. He said he'd been feeling unhappy for a while, that our marriage wasn't happy anymore, the kind of excuses you give to justify cheating, when the only real excuse is that you wanted to dip your stick in other waters and weren't brave enough to admit it. He claimed it started as an emotional affair and became physical 2 months earlier. He also refused to tell me who the woman was, saying it would only make things worse for everyone. The following weeks were hell. He moved into the guest room, and we barely spoke except about logistics. Hannah was amazing during this time. She helped me find a divorce lawyer, brought me groceries when I didn't have the energy to leave the house, and listened to me cycle through my anger, sadness, and confusion over and over. We decided to do a no-fault divorce in our state, since we had no kids and could agree on most of the division of assets. There was no fault-based divorce option. So the cheating didn't matter at all in the legal process. Ben wanted to sell the house, which broke my heart, but I couldn't afford the mortgage on my own anyway. The whole process took about 3 months, from filing to finalizing, and Hannah was a great friend, in very heavy quotation marks, the entire time. She even took time off work to go with me to some lawyer meetings, playing the full part of a two-faced, backstabbing Judas. During the process, I kept trying to find out the identity of the other woman, but Ben wouldn't say, and Hannah gave me a description that didn't sound like anyone I knew. I became a little obsessed with it, honestly. I wanted to know if it was someone I knew, someone from his work, or maybe someone I'd already suspected. The divorce was finalized on a Friday in early May, and I remember the date perfectly because it felt surreal walking out of that courthouse officially single after 8 years with Ben. Hannah picked me up afterward and took me to what she called a girls' lunch to celebrate being free of a cheating man. She spent the whole time talking about how I was now free to start fresh, to meet someone nothing like Ben, and how I needed to see this as a positive thing. Knowing what I know now, I probably would have made her choke on her food the first time she opened her mouth to say Ben's name. But like I said, she played the part very well and didn't distance herself from me at the same time Ben did, which should have been a blaring nuclear siren in my head. That weekend, I decided to take a break from social media. I needed to clear my head and didn't want anything reminding me of my marriage, Ben, or any of it. I figured a digital detox would be good for my mental health, even if all this wasn't happening. Hannah completely supported the decision, saying it was a mature and healthy choice. Yeah, shameless. So I was completely disconnected for about a week. When I finally logged back into Facebook and Instagram the following weekend, I got the answer to all my doubts in one moment. There was Ben, also known as I Can't Keep My Snake Away from Any Swamp, together with Hannah, also known as the backstabbing best friend in the swamp, both showing off rings, both smiling like idiots. The post was from the Saturday after our divorce was finalized, literally the very next day. Lucky them, I guess, that I finalized my divorce on Friday so they could have Saturday free to make their big announcement. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. The caption said they were so excited to share their love with the world, and they thanked everyone for their support during this transition. I started scrolling through the comments, feeling like I was going to throw up. People were congratulating them, saying how cute they looked together, that you could see the love in their eyes. But the worst part was reading comments from mutual friends saying things like, "It's great that everyone is handling this so maturely," and, "It's nice there's no drama since everyone's on the same page." Then I saw a comment from Ben's mom that made everything click. She wrote something like, "I'm so happy you can finally be open about your relationship. I'm so grateful that OP was understanding and gave you her blessing. It's a testament to her class as a person." I felt like I was going insane. I kept checking more posts, and there were multiple references to how I supposedly knew about their relationship and supported it, that we'd actually had an open relationship, and when they fell in love and I fell out of love with Ben, I gave them my blessing to move forward. That day, Hannah had posted something on her Instagram stories, which I'd missed during my social media break, saying how grateful she was for mature friends who understand that love is complicated. I immediately called Hannah, but it went straight to voicemail. I called again and again, same thing. I was going to have a conversation with her, and it was not going to be pleasant. That's why the tone of my message to her was basically, "Call me now and explain this, or I'll come to your apartment and you can explain it to my face," although, realistically, she'd probably end up with less hair than she had at that moment. She didn't answer, and I don't like to lie, so I went to her apartment, but she either wasn't there or wouldn't open the door. Finally, that night, I got a message from her. It was long, and basically said she was sorry I had to find out through social media, but she and Ben had decided it was time to be honest. She said she never wanted to hurt me by telling me who the other person was, that she wanted to wait until I was over Ben and had finalized the divorce. She claimed she thought I'd be happy for them since, during the divorce, I'd said I wanted Ben to be happy and that our marriage had been a mistake for both of us. But that's not exactly what I said. I said Ben could die, and hopefully be happy in hell, and that our marriage was a mistake because he was sleeping with a dirty whore. I guess being a dirty whore means having your ears plugged and hearing something completely different. The message went on, saying she hoped I could understand, and that she valued our friendship too much to lose it over this. She said Ben had been miserable in our marriage and that she had only tried to help me realize it, so that I could also be free and find true love. She had the audacity to frame their relationship as some kind of favor to me. I was shaking with rage, but the worst part was that she had somehow convinced people that I knew about their relationship and had given them my blessing. So I did what I had to do. I made a long post telling the truth. And it was not pretty. I wrote that Hannah had played the part of my friend, told me about the cheating so I'd divorce Ben, and so they could be together. Because now that I've had time to think about it, Ben hadn't been planning to ask me for a divorce and marry her, which would have been the logical thing to do. No, my so-called friend Mrs. Turd told me so I would do the dirty work her lover couldn't do, so she could have him all to herself. I posted it a few hours ago and I've already gotten some reactions. But while I was nervously waiting, I decided to post here and ask something important. If, hypothetically, and I don't want the FBI to take this as a real threat, you had to kill 2 attempted people and hide them so the FBI wouldn't find them, what would your plan of action be? Remember, we're just playing here, it's only a joke, wink, wink. Update 1. My sister came by to drop something off and commented on how proud she was of how I'd handled the whole situation with Hannah and Ben. My sister isn't much of a social media person, and apparently no one had told her about the post I made yesterday. I guess something in my face gave it away, because I must have looked like I was about to blow steam out of my ears. Well, she ended up getting the same version of events from here on Reddit, but without the censorship. In this version, I don't even know how, but I found 20 different ways to call Hannah, a woman who, let's just say, sleeps with people or things, like my ex, for money or drugs. We even counted them. My sister was absolutely horrified by what I told her, not by the 20 versions, but by the story itself. She kept saying, "Wait, what?" and making me repeat parts because she couldn't believe it. She told me that Hannah and Ben had told everyone that the 3 of us had sat down together months ago and decided that Ben and I weren't the one for each other, and that Hannah and Ben had mutual feelings. That, thanks to our open marriage, they'd gotten a taste of that relationship, and then explored it fully after the divorce. The only exploration I approved of was my foot exploring both of their asses. My sister wanted to call other relatives and friends right away to clear things up, but I told her it was too late, they probably already knew. I've been getting some messages, though not too many yet. I got a call from my cousin, who lives across the country, but news like this travels fast in our family. She was calling because she'd seen my post, but also because she had something to tell me. Apparently, Hannah is already calling people or sending messages to do damage control after my post. My cousin was one of the people who got one of those messages, and Hannah told her that maybe I was now feeling regretful and jealous, and that's why I was saying all these things, when in reality, I had always been okay with it. Well, my cousin didn't believe her. She has messages from an old conversation where she asked me what I thought about open relationships, because a friend of hers was trying one, and I told her the truth, that I thought it was a terrible idea. So now she's going to make a post with some of those messages, along with the stuff about Hannah. And I'll probably make another post too, tagging my cousin and adding a few things I might have left out in the first one. Not the 20 variations of whore for Hannah, because that post probably wouldn't last long. I'll update again after I post something publicly, wish me luck. Edit. Some people think I'm only mad at Hannah and that I've forgiven Ben or something. No, we've also had a naming contest for Ben, but it's much easier in his case. Calling him a dumb worm and things like that just isn't as impressive as finding variations for whore. Update 2. Well, I posted the second post. It's been intense, and the responses have been even better. I kept it simple and clean, just said I never gave my blessing to the employee of the month at Amsterdam's House of Pleasure, and that neither she nor my mosquito of an ex-husband, because he likes dirty water, had my blessing up to this day. The post seemed to be within platform rules, and in an hour I already had dozens of comments and messages. Most people were surprised and supportive, saying they'd always thought the whole thing seemed weird but believed Hannah and Ben's word. Several mutual friends apologized for not paying more attention to me during the divorce. It's becoming clear that Hannah ran a full PR campaign to control the narrative about my divorce. She contacted dozens of people in my life ahead of time to discredit anything I might say that contradicted her story. The level of planning and manipulation is honestly impressive. Apparently, Ben saw my post because he sent me a long message last night. He claimed he thought I understood our marriage was already over, and that his relationship with Hannah just made that clearer. He said they'd been protecting my feelings by not making their relationship public until after the divorce, so I wouldn't be seen as the cheated-on wife. The audacity of that message actually made me laugh out loud. He was trying to spin months of lying and betrayal as if it were some kind of favor to me. He added that if I really cared about moving on, I'd stop stirring things up and allow everyone to focus on the future instead of the past. But here's where it gets interesting. An hour after Ben's message, I got a call from his sister, Katie. We'd always gotten along, and she had been one of the people who posted congratulations about how maturely we had all handled things. Katie told me she'd seen my Facebook post and wanted to talk. She told me that Ben had brought Hannah to the family Christmas dinner in December, 2 months before Hannah came to tell me about the affair. Katie said she thought it was weird that Ben brought Hannah without me, but he told the family I was sick and that Hannah was just coming as a friend, since she had nowhere else to go for Christmas. The thing is, that part was true. I was sick. So Ben and Hannah were basically playing couple with his family while I was at home sick. The betrayal just keeps getting deeper the more I learn. Katie also told me that Ben's mom had felt uncomfortable with how quickly he jumped into a serious relationship with Hannah after the divorce. She made comments to Katie about how suspicious it was that Ben was ready for something so serious so soon after ending an 8-year marriage. But Ben reassured his family that he and Hannah had talked about their feelings with me, that I supported their relationship, and that if his ex-wife was okay with it, then the family should be too. Katie apologized for not reaching out directly to see how I was really doing. She said the family had been told that I preferred space, another lie, designed to isolate me and control the narrative. The most shocking thing Katie told me was about the engagement. She said Ben had been planning to propose to Hannah for weeks before our divorce was even finalized. Apparently, he'd been looking at rings in April and had asked his family for his grandmother's wedding band so it could be resized as an engagement ring for Hannah. So while I was sitting in a lawyer's office dividing our assets, Ben was literally planning his next wedding. But the story doesn't end there. After my Facebook post blew up, Hannah apparently panicked. Katie told me Hannah had been frantically calling members of Ben's family to do damage control, insisting that I was having some kind of breakdown and that nothing I said should be believed. But by now, with these posts out there, there's no convincing anyone that she's anything other than the dirty mistress of my dirtier ex-husband. This morning, I got a message that honestly left me speechless. It was from Ben's ex-girlfriend from college, someone I'd only seen a handful of times over the years. She said she'd seen the drama on social media and felt she needed to tell me something. She told me Ben had also cheated on her, and that when they broke up, he didn't stay single for long, he was already showing off his new girlfriend soon after. I feel like I've been living in the Truman Show or something. The end of my marriage was apparently scripted, and I was the only one who didn't know I was playing a role. I don't even know how to process all this information. I'm angry, but also impressed by how sophisticated their manipulation was. They had contingency plans for their contingency plans. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Katie and Ben's ex-girlfriend for coffee. Katie wants to apologize in person for her family's role in allowing all this, and Ben's ex wants to give me more details about his pattern of behavior. I never thought my life would turn into some kind of detective story, but here we are. I'll update again when I know more. This rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper. Update 3. After talking to Katie and meeting Ben's ex-girlfriend, who confirmed that he likes to have the other bed ready for when he needs to jump, I realized I at least had to try to warn Hannah. Not because I owe her anything, but because I wanted to laugh in her face later when it happened to her. Sorry, I'm petty, I didn't want to wait until it happened. And before you say, but if you warn her, she'll leave him and nothing bad will happen, don't worry, the idiot thinks it's true love and that everything with her will be rainbows and sunshine. Even now, it serves my purposes, because later I can say, I told you so, while laughing in her face with the force of 100 suns. So yesterday morning, I texted Hannah asking if we could talk. I kept it simple. I told her I had information about Ben she should know before her wedding planning went too far. It was my bait. She took a few hours to respond. But she finally agreed to meet in a neutral, public place, the downtown Starbucks, where we used to meet for coffee back when we were still friends. Walking into that cafe was surreal. 3 months earlier, Hannah and I had been talking there like friends. Hannah looked uncomfortable when I arrived, but she was there. I went straight to the point and told her about my conversation with Miguel, and about how Ben had used the exact same strategy with his college girlfriend that he'd used with me. I explained that in both previous cases, Ben had recruited a mutual friend to push his current girlfriend toward a breakup, then had been temporarily with that friend before moving on to his real next target. I told her she wasn't his great love story, she was simply the latest in a long line of women he'd used to make his transition easier. I even showed her some details Miguel had shared about how Ben had manipulated her friend in exactly the same way he had manipulated Hannah. Hannah listened to everything I said, but I could see her getting more defensive as I spoke. When I finished, she stayed silent for a moment, then said that what I was describing didn't sound anything like her relationship with Ben. She insisted their connection was real, and that Ben had told her he'd never felt that way about anyone before. I laughed, because I'd heard the exact same thing once, and like an idiot, I'd believed it. I almost told her that, but I didn't need to, she was convinced. And then she had to make it worse. She said it was obvious I was still bitter about the divorce, and that I was trying to sabotage her happiness because I couldn't stand to see Ben with someone else. She even said she wasn't surprised I was making up stories about Ben's past because, according to him, I'd never been able to take responsibility for why our marriage failed. She claimed Ben had told her I'd been emotionally distant and unsupportive for years, and that she herself had seen how I made him feel unappreciated and unloved. The conversation escalated quickly. Hannah said that even if Ben had a pattern in the past, people change, and their relationship was different because it was built on a foundation of friendship and understanding. She said I was just jealous that Ben had found true happiness with someone who supported and valued him. When I pointed out that she had literally helped Ben cheat on me and then lied to me for months, she said she had actually tried to help both of us see that our marriage was already over. She insisted she had saved me years of an unhappy relationship, and that I should thank her instead of trying to destroy her engagement. The final straw was when she said Ben had warned her I might try something like this, that I had a tendency to blame others for my problems, and that maybe I'd try to turn people against them out of spite. She said she was disappointed because I was proving him right. At that moment, I realized she was going to walk right into the trap. When I stood to leave, Hannah said something that really stuck with me. She said maybe if I'd been a better wife, Ben wouldn't have had to seek emotional support elsewhere. That she wasn't going to apologize for being there for him when my marriage was falling apart, and that she wasn't going to let my vindictiveness ruin the best thing that had ever happened to her. I've got that burned into my brain, and I also wrote it down on paper and in my phone, in case I ever need to repeat it back to her. The truth is, Hannah willingly participated in the destruction of my marriage. I will not feel bad when I get my revenge. She sat in my living room and consoled me while sleeping with my husband. She helped me hire a divorce lawyer while planning to marry my ex-husband. She spent months lying to my face while building a relationship with the man she was helping me leave. Even if Ben does to Hannah exactly what he did to me, or to Miguel, I can't feel sorry for her. She chose to betray our friendship and participate in Ben's manipulation. If she ends up being treated the same way she helped treat me, I will laugh harder than I've ever laughed. I will be that Tom Cruise meme. Katie also told me she decided not to confront Ben directly about his pattern. She said after seeing how Hannah reacted to the truth, she realized that people who are determined to believe lies will always find a way to dismiss any evidence that contradicts what they want to believe. Instead, she's just going to keep her distance from Ben, like her parents are doing. As far as I know, the wedding is still happening. But here's where I might have been a little bad: my posts, and my cousins, are going to make that wedding very cheap. Apparently, not many people want to celebrate the union of an affair. First revenge completed. Update 4. I've always answered questions about the wedding with the same thing: I don't know much. All I saw were a couple of photos, and I didn't know any of the guests. No one who could tell me anything was there, but judging by the photos and the long faces, it looked more like a funeral than a wedding. Which, honestly, I think is reasonable, because weddings are supposed to celebrate love, not the lack of self-control to avoid sleeping with your wife's friend or your friend's husband. But hey, that's just me. Others might see it differently. So I haven't had much to share since then. The wedding happened almost a year ago, and things have been quiet. We've just been living our lives. Until the inevitable happened. My ex-friend Hannah called me. I knew the day would come, but I wasn't prepared. I answered with a hello, and she was crying. She started telling me what happened: that she found out Ben was with another woman, that she had kicked him out of the house, and that he had moved in with her apartment. Meanwhile, I was frantically searching through drawers for the paper. Unfortunately, I'd changed my phone 4 months ago and no longer had it saved there. When I finally found it, I stopped her and told her something I thought might help. This is what I'd written in my message to my future self, meaning me, now. If you had been a better wife to Ben, he wouldn't have had to seek emotional support from another floozy like you. I'm not going to be here for you now that your marriage is falling apart, and I'm not going to let your tears interrupt my day with your nonsense and that of the other good-for-nothing. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me, seeing you suffer, and I'm glad. Then I laughed the longest laugh you can imagine, maybe exaggerated it a bit, and hung up. God, that felt so good. But not as good as what I found out afterward, although maybe the two things combined. Ben didn't stay with the new girlfriend for long, because she had a boyfriend. A boyfriend who was deployed and came home early to surprise his partner, only to find Ben in her bed. I don't know if he caught them in the act, but he definitely found him there, and wondered why there was a man living in his apartment. Katie told me Ben left pretty quickly, or rather, fell from the first floor of the apartment complex, because that's how the boyfriend decided he should leave. Unfortunately, he only suffered some scrapes, but he won't be pressing charges against the boyfriend. What Ben did want was to stay with Katie or their parents, and they told him no. I think he should try apologizing to Hannah. The idiot will probably take him back. Not that I'll ever know, because I have them blocked. Another small joy for me, after my oh-so-smart ex-friend thought that since I hadn't blocked her, there was still a chance with me. Oh, how naive. So now I'm closing this story with this post, because as far as I'm concerned, I've gotten what I wanted. Unless, of course, they've all now contracted an STD, in which case, maybe I'll post again.